bossy lady who walks around without being shady, who knows her values, who's gone through trials. Her smiles are captured from mouth to mouth. It's not the size of her thighs she worries about, but the pride she thrives to keep that drive. That cinnamon twist. That cinnamon twist. That cinnamon twist. Ladies, can you feel me? That cinnamon twist. That cinnamon twist. That cinnamon twist. Ladies, can you hear me?
All right, Rookie, what you got for me tonight?
Multiple cases of drunk, drugged, distracted, and drowsy drivers picked up. Meet Andy Carmichael, age 25, drunk driver. Statement says he'd attended a friend's Halloween party after hours of drinking heavily. He left to get more drinks.
Book him.
Meet John Smith, aka Mr. Distracted. Statement reads, ran a stop sign, ran a red light, caused a crash.
Well, this guy needs to keep his head in the game.
Meet Jane Goodman.
Grandma?
Jane thought a few extra pills would be okay. She said she just wanted to sit pain-free before her daily dose of Jeopardy.
That ain't cool, Grandma. That ain't cool.
We have a suspect picked up for falling asleep at the wheel. Meet Charlie Knight, aka Drowsy the Clown. Statement reads,
Creepy as
after a hard day's work, Charlie was exhausted and chose to get behind the wheel.
I hate clowns.
All right, what do you think, Chief?
Don't be like these idiots. Drive like you give a
Operate, pilot, steer, control. No worries, everything will be all right. We're 5 minutes away. Critical. Beware. Open your eyes. Can't you see? Unexpected, unanticipated, unannounced, unforeseen. All in the blink of an eye. Lives changed forever. Caution. Pause. Driver distraction is responsible for more than 58% of teen crashes alone. More than half of road traffic deaths occur among adults between the ages of 18 and 44. In the last 6 months, there have been over 40 fatal crashes and 50 deaths. The cause? Distracted driving. Beware. Be aware. Your life is worth much more than a phone call, a drink, a text. Drive focused, sober, and safe.
I'm Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney for Prince George's County. One life is too many to be lost to unsafe driving. So join us in our campaign. Drive focused, sober, and safe.
Hey, it's your girl Tasha, known to the world as the Tasha Carpenter, but everybody calls me your girl Tasha because when you hang with me, it's like you are hanging with your girl. And today, guys, in the studio, we have a pretty serious topic today going into the studio. A lot of you guys may know that May is actually Mental Health Month. So today's topic is going to touch on some things involving with mental health and also with a person making a mistake but being able to redeem himself from it and giving a second chance. So that wonderful person in the studio today is this handsome young man right here, Mr. Now, you don't like to be called. You said you got another name. Y'all saw on the fly, I put Devin Smith. I didn't see that he has another name. But what's your other name that you go by?
Well, Dev.
Dev?
My little sister started calling me Dev, and I was like, you know what? I like that. So that's,
okay.
Yeah, I go with it.
So it's Dev in the house. Okay, it's your girl Tasha and Dev in the house today. Yeah. Guys, this is kind of a different show for your girl Tasha because I actually found myself being baffled about where do we start? Do we start at the beginning? Do we start at the middle? Or do we start at the end? So even up until this point, I'm really like still winging it. But your story involves adversity, and your story involves grief and trauma.
Yeah.
and anxiety,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's just so many things that go on that like led to depression.
Yeah.
So I guess that where I want to do first is just for you to go back and look back on things. Um, Sometimes we have hindsight is 50-50. So afterwards we may see where, oh, that was a trigger. That was something that there was a trigger.
Yeah.
So when you go back and think about stuff, where do you think that your road began to you making the wrong choice to treat your depression? So what was like the first incident that you would think that maybe triggered that?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I was always like an independent kid growing up, and I was the oldest of my siblings, right? And so I always took on like a role of someone who is strong, right? And so I felt like if something was going on, it was up to me to just figure it out, right? And the strong thing to do is to not relinquish that burden onto others, right?
Okay.
And so I just went through the habit of just keeping everything in and trying to deal with it on my own, right? And so as that added more pressure, it ultimately led me to not making the best decisions.
Okay, so what was the first thing? If you're saying as an older person, the older sibling, how many siblings do you have?
I have 4.
4, okay.
I have 4.
So as the older sibling, and I got to handle everything on my own. What was the first thing that you found yourself handling that, that you didn't share to other people? Share with other people that you might have been better off talking about instead of holding it in and letting it consume you.
Yes. One of the first things that come to mind, especially as it relates to me not making the best decisions, was when my father and uncles passed. When that happened, that was my grandparents' only children. And with me, like I said, being the oldest of my siblings, I felt a sense of obligation and duty to be strong for them and to, provide an example of what, how you deal with things. And to me, it was not to put more burdens on them. Because I can't imagine what it's like to lose my only children, right? I knew what it's like to lose my father, but my siblings at the time, they were, maybe 10 and 12 or something like that. They were young.
So how old were you when your father and uncle passed?
I was 19.
Okay,
I was 19.
and what was the incident? They passed together, right?
Yes. So I'm from a small coastal town in North Carolina, right on the coast, and so commercial fishing has been on my father's side of the family for about 3 generations. So like all the men on that side of my family, were commercial fishermen, and they based the company primarily out of New Jersey. And so back in 2009, they were out fishing, and usually they're out in the Atlantic Ocean for about 2 weeks or more at a time, right? And there's no land in sight. It's kind of like the movie The Perfect Storm, if you've ever seen that.
Yes.
And so essentially what happened, right? They were out, and there was another much larger boat that made impact with theirs, and it caused their boat to sink like almost instantaneously. And so my father, 2 of my uncles, one of our cousins, and all the other crewmen except for one passed away at sea.
Oh wow, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry to hear that story. So you were trying to be the strong person for the rest of the family, but that really pulled at your heart.
It did, for a number of reasons too, Tasha. At the time, I was 19, right, a freshman in college, and I was in this place where I was kind of, trying to, I guess, being a little rebellious towards my dad, right? And I remember very vividly, like right before they had gone out that week, my dad had called me and asked, I think about a Bible verse, and I just kind of blew it off, right? Because, I'm in college. I'm like, listen, I'm trying to, be my friends. I don't got time to talk to you, right? And it was later that week when everything happened. So that in itself, right, caused so much conflict in me. I felt guilt, right, and not, savoring, those moments and what my father was trying to, build between us. So that for sure was one of the reasons.
Okay, I'm smiling over here because I just love my viewers. As usual, guys, please share and invite. But we got Miss Kathy Jo Redman, who I guess hopped on. Hi, everyone. Love you guys. Who hopped on a little bit late. So she wanted us to recap what the topic is. But she said, by the way, he still look 19. So that's why I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here smiling here. Kathy, this is a story about Dev's road to redemption and how he's gone from broken pieces to a second chance. And as we talk, I encourage you guys to just stay here because there are pain points and things that led up to a tragedy and some trauma in Devin's life. And so we're going to work our way up to it, but what he's done on the other side of that tragedy. So just stay here with us, share and invite, share and invite, share and invite. Okay. So I guess that you and your dad just didn't have the best of relationship, and it was an opportunity to start mending it, and you didn't take that opportunity, and then he was gone.
Yeah.
Okay, I could kind of relate a little bit to it. My mom passed from breast cancer October 2007. We didn't have the best relationship, but I had to be her caregiver at the end, and because she didn't understand why I had to make decisions to put her in the hospice and stuff like that. The last week just wasn't a good week, but this is not about me. This is about you, and we'll talk about that later on. Okay, so you're at college, and that happened while you were in college.
Yes.
So you're like a sophomore, or
I was a freshman at that point.
Okay, a freshman. Okay.
Yep.
So now the next incident that took place that led to you're holding that already in. You're not going to anyone to seek any help or any therapy. Is there any reason why?
Yeah. And again, I don't know. I just, in a lot of Black, African American households and communities, we think of therapy as like a last resort, if a resort at all. There's such stigma, and being from a small town, and I'm a person of faith. I just didn't think I needed therapy. If I just prayed about it and stayed strong and kept moving forward, I was good, right? But as I think about it now, I'm pretty sure that I was doing myself a disservice by not having therapy. And there was a time I remember, I want to say maybe the year afterwards, I was sitting in class, right? And I just became overwhelmed with anxiety. I was like shaking, right? And I was like, I can't be in here. And I just got up in the middle of class. I left. I went to one of my advisor's offices. And I get in there, we close the door. And I just break down crying. And I didn't know why. I just knew I needed to go somewhere to release that, right? Okay. So that was when I was a freshman, and that, I definitely didn't take therapy like I should have.
Okay. Then the next thing that happens.
Yeah. So as that's taking place, right? As I was in college, right, I began to act on the fact that, I was attracted to guys. And that was something that was also difficult for me to deal with. As I mentioned before, I'm a person of faith, and I never believed that that was right, and it caused such internal conflict in me. And also I knew that my family, for instance, didn't believe in that, right? And so when my father passed, that was also part of that guilt, right? To the point where I even had nightmares that he even came and told me that, he was disappointed in me for, being attracted to guys, right? And that also weighed very, very heavily on my mental. So that next summer, as I'm, preparing, trying to pick up the pieces, right? I actually did go to see therapy that next year for a little bit, right? I wasn't really using it how I should have. I wasn't being honest and trying to get anything from it. I was going to check off the box to say I done it. But one night, I went to a friend's. I had been drinking, right? And so I was intoxicated. And I remember, kind of like venting about how I felt about my fathers in their passing. And
so let me interrupt you there. Did
Yeah.
you start drinking after your uncle and father passed, or was that an issue prior to that?
well,
Or was it social and then it became a problem?
yeah, it was definitely social. I had never drank until I got to college.
Okay.
But again, with hindsight being 2020, I can definitely see where after all that happened, my drinking increased.
Okay.
And I began to drink not just to have fun during social settings, but I began to drink to feel
Mask the
better, to cope.
pain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. To cope with
Self-medicate.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're drinking, you're out with a friend, and what takes place?
Yeah, so I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. Long story short, they had gone through my phone and saw that I had been texting a guy. And they actually typed up the messages and emailed them to pretty much all of our friends at our school, at neighboring schools. I actually found out about it from my best friend who went to a completely different school. And when that happened, man, that rocked me, man. Just because that's not something I had even dealt with for myself yet. And so trying to deal with that while everyone I knew essentially was talking about it and had their commentary. It was I can look back now and realize that it was traumatic. I think I still like today have social anxiety from that, right? Because it's like you go somewhere and you never know, like, did they read it? You know, were they talking about it? You know, so it definitely gave me so much more anxiety as I was trying to just deal with it on my own, as well as how that related to like my relationship with my father and their passing.
Okay, so when who you thought were your friends decided to, as you said, out you to everyone. I know it had to be difficult, but what other type of things? Because at this point, I'm sure you're still trying to be that strong person.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a support system of someone that you could go talk to? And at this point, when they outed you to like other people, your friends and stuff, by any chance did it get back to your family? Because I guess, when did you first start experiencing the thoughts that you might be attracted to a man?
Yeah.
Was that at high school? At college, or was that before that time frame? And had you ever thought about, was anyone in your family? Did you have one close friend? Of course, the person you're texting.
Yeah.
But did you have any other person that wasn't in that lifestyle that you could communicate with?
Yeah. I did. I have actually a friend from high school who ended up going to college with me. We became really close. And she, as well as the friend who told me who went to a neighboring school, they both were the only people I talked to about it. And in fact, at that point, I hadn't even talked to my friend from the other school. I had only talked to the one friend who I went to school with me from high school about it. And she was supportive. But I'm the kind of person, too, where I'm, like, super stubborn. And even though it killed me to, like, have to see everybody and be around them, I was not going to let them know that. And so I still did everything I did. I had someone tell me that I should transfer schools, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who's a friend. And I really considered it. But I was like, you know what? I am not going to let anybody run me from here.
Miss Kathy Joe has a message for you. She said, I was just talking about a kid that jumped off the bridge for something similar to this in college. She said she thanks God that you're strong enough to be to handle them outing you, and you're still here today.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So it was a crazy time. So not only did that happen, so I'm acting like nothing ever happened. I'm going to all the parties. I'm still on campus. I was active on campus. But what made it crazy, right, is that, there was like a lot of tension with the people that were involved on campus. So like, when I tell you, like, there was drama, I mean, like, fights, just so much drama. But
did they ever apologize?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. and here's the thing about it too, right? We were like 19, 20 years old, right?
Okay.
And you do stupid things at that point, and so we have had a chance to like talk and get past it.
Okay.
And I think our friendship was real and genuine. And honestly, I think it's helped, having done that helped me grow to get to the place where I'm at now, right, where I can let it, like, release it,
Okay.
right, and not hold on to it.
Okay. So all this drama's going on. You
So
dealing with
much.
all this
Oof.
stuff. What kind of thoughts? I mean, for the person that's out there that might be feeling something like this, that might be going through what Miss Kathy is saying that she knows happened with another person or whatever. You chose to treat this in a manner without getting professional help that actually took you to a whole nother level,
Yeah.
guys. The way that I met Devin actually is that I got a call from Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brave Boy, and she wanted me to come out and be a part of Media Row for a campaign that she was starting, the Drive Focus Safe and Sober campaign. And he was at the pre-meeting when we went to the courthouse, and so he was there. Everybody else is there. It's kind of like, if you're not media, they were kind of like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or other people that had the police officers and all these other people. But Devin was there for more of a courageous reason. So can you share with them why you was a part of this meeting, Devin?
Yeah.
And how all this that we talked about, guys, led to the intoxication and stuff, and you could just share with them how we got here.
So basically, so during that time period, right, everything is going on, life is out of control. I was actually on the way to visit my friend who told me, and I wanted to tell him the truth because while it's all going on, I'm lying about it, right? I'm saying that it's not true, but that ate at me, right? And so as I went to tell him, I was drinking, trying to get that liquid courage, right, so I can talk to him about it. And on my way home that night, I didn't get to tell him. I didn't talk to him about it because as I drank, the more I was like, Dev, you can't do this, right? Your friendship's going to be over, like, whatever. And so I'm driving back home, and I remember being so sad, man, like, it's even crying, right, in the car. And also drunk. And got in an accident. I hit a car. It flew into the trees. And there was a guy. He was 21 at the time. And he didn't pass immediately. It was about a week later in the hospital. But yeah, that's where it all took me.
So basically, this trying to treat your depression with what you call it, a liquid courage.
Liquid courage, yeah.
Yeah, trying to treat his depression and try to treat his anxiety and just trying to suppress things. He started using that bottle as a treatment plan, and this treatment plan led to him taking somebody's life.
Yeah. And what made it really hit home for me about how terrible that was, it was so similar to how my father's passed. They were minding their business essentially, and another boat, a much larger boat, came and damaged theirs to where they passed. And I did something similar, right? And I'll never forget being in court that day. I was hearing the family share their words and thoughts about me, and I couldn't get upset because some of the same things they were saying about me, I heard my grandmother say about the people involved in my father's accident. And I heard my siblings and cousins talk about how our dad's accident made them feel. And at that point, I knew I had to just own it, right? I couldn't not own that while wanting to, like, find peace about my own father's passing, which was so similar.
When you was in court, were you supposed to say, did you have one of those moments where you supposed to say something to the family?
I did. I did.
What was that moment like?
It was the most difficult thing I'd ever had to do, honestly. It really was. Because, again, it just felt like I was speaking to my own family, right? From not about 2 years prior to when we were all in that same place, right? So it was difficult, especially too, right? My family was there, with me, and they had to hear someone say I was reckless and didn't care about human life, and I'm their baby boy, right? And I knew it was disappointing for them also. So yeah, that was probably to this day one of the most difficult things I had to do.
So now at this point though, when do you share with your family the reason why you were drinking and driving like that? To tell them the reasons you're dealing with the fact that you're attracted to men.
Yeah, that all just happened pretty recently, honestly. Very recently. Like within the past 2 years.
Wow. Now, I didn't know that part about it.
Yeah.
2 years? Okay, all right. We're going to have to break to a commercial on that. And then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that. But then you're going to have to hear about, even though how he's gone through this, how experienced that now he's out on a mission to help other people. So we'll go to the commercial, guys, and we'll see you on the flip side.
I made a mistake. And before I realized that it was too late, I was swerving in and out between two lanes, but I didn't expect anybody's family to be in any true pain. I could have put the bottle down. I was in a daze, so I'm kicking it into full throttle now, but now somebody's mom is feeling trauma because their baby can't be coddled now, so she can't get her baby back. I didn't think I hit the bottle that hard. It was like baby taps, but now I got a murder attached to me. A few little sips turned everything around me into a travesty, so do everybody a favor and stay sober on the pavement to prevent another tragedy. Because the last thing we need is more casualties. So drive safe. Because it's not just your life. It's everybody's life that's at stake.
I'm Aisha Braveboy, State's Attorney for Prince George's County. One life is too many to be lost to unsafe driving. So join us in our campaign. Drive focused, sober, and safe.
So we're back, guys. You just got to see when I see the hearts going up on the screen, and I see the oh wows in the chat and everything and stuff with the Drive Focus Sober and Safe campaign commercial. The first one, I know some of y'all are not used to me opening up and going straight to videos, but the first one was about distracted driving, which I just want to take a moment to remind you that that's just as bad as driving under the influence too. So both of them we have to take care of. So you got to hear two of the young people in the community who wrote poems about situations that they saw where people had lost their life dealing with distracted driving as well as sober driving. And we're back to Dev, who shares with me all of this. We know that he was drink for y'all just coming in, continue to share and invite. He was treating his depression because he was dealing with the fact that he was attracted to men and worry about people and their stigmas and worrying about people and their homophobias and how they was going to treat him. As a result, ended up being behind a car without the intention. I know it wasn't your intention to take anyone's life, but when you drink, anything can happen at a given second. You don't make a choice to do anything with that at all. So now he tells me, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking at this point. So now you're dealing with. I can imagine that was 2011. 11, because 2009 is your dad and your uncle. Mm-hmm. So from 2011 to, you said 2 years ago, this 2017, you dealing with still your father and your uncle. Yeah. You're dealing with, you've taken someone's life that you did not want to take. Yeah. You're dealing with that you had to listen to their family say things about the same thing that the boat drivers that took your uncle and father's life, your family said about them. And then you're still dealing with, you're having life with men. How did you hold on? I mean, did you ever go get therapy?
Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
Yeah. So, so there were like friends I shared it with, right? And it's funny how it all happened, right? because again, I was so set on, you know, not being attracted to guys or what have you, that I was like, I'm just not going to address it, right? And so what happened was a very funny story. I was applying for jobs, right? And
before we go there, something we both was important we missed, and Miss Kathy asking you a lot of questions, but
Okay.
it's something important we should talk about.
Okay.
She said, "Oh wow, was he jailed? Did he tell the judge his drinking was related to having been outed? No, he didn't. But he was jailed. Was the incident with the text actually a part of his defense or explanation to your family?" So talk to them about how you're in college and your life ended. We were about to skip over that part. Thank you, Kathy.
So true.
Thank
Yes.
you. We need to go back there. Go
Yes. So the first question. So yes, I did serve time for that. I served 2 years in prison. I had a 4-year sentence that I was able to work down to 2 years. And the other question, I did not use the text messages as a defense. Because again, right, you have to think of my mindset at the time. I felt guilty. I felt like I was wrong, and inherently, guilty for even, having attraction for guys or texting guys. I felt like I was wrong and I deserved it. That's where I was mentally. So I didn't even think of using that as a defense or anything.
So how was your life in jail, though? How did you...
Yeah.
What type of challenge was that?
It's funny, right? Because so from the time the accident happened until the time I actually was sentenced and incarcerated was 11 months. And so during that 11-month period, there was even more anxiety of, okay, which is going to be the day I actually go to prison, right? And so when it finally came, that first night, I had the most peaceful sleep of any night I'd had probably in the past the 3 years before that.
Wow.
Just because there was resolution, right? And I was so broken to I'm like, well, I can't get any lower. So it was oddly kind of peaceful. But with that said, I was like kind of numb in prison, right? So I definitely didn't talk about, sexuality or anything like that. But it was difficult. I didn't, of course, share that with anybody. I wrote a lot. That's how I got through it. So I write. I have journals from like going back to second grade. And so just from my prison, like journals and letters, I have a whole suitcase full of stuff.
Wow.
All my thoughts and feelings.
Okay, so that moves us to you get out of prison and then you're still living with this, and eventually you said...
Oh yeah, so the way I found was like, I need to address this, right, in terms of sexuality. I had quit my job because I wasn't happy and satisfied. And as I'm looking for a job, I found one that was perfect. It was right in line with my experience and background and what I wanted to do in business. But it was for an organization that catered to LGBT business owners. And even though it was perfect, it would have allowed me to work with, major corporations and small business owners and leaders. I wasn't going to take it because I felt like if I, or I wasn't going to apply actually. I said if I apply and get it, people are going to, find out about me, right? But then after a while, I was like, you know what? You don't have a job, fool. So you need to be applying for anything you can get. And I was like, and if you get it, then take that as a sign that you just need to be authentic about this, right?
Was this, okay, because now my mind, it just popped somewhere else. Was this like, how long after being out? Because a lot of people out here, talking to people, the prisoners, and how it's hard, ex-inmates, how it's hard for them to get a job with a record and all this other kind of stuff, so...
Yeah. So all that
you
in
had
itself,
that
was a lot. Yeah. I forgot about that. So, yeah. So, I get away. The first thing was going back to school. So at this point, I had done 3 years in college at NC State. I was an exemplar student for the most part. But
what was your GPA?
It was actually like a 3.3.
Trinity got you. She was
something.
a 3.69. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, she's awesome. So, but I went to reapply and they wouldn't accept me back because they said, I was a threat to campus security. So at that point, I actually had to.
Why are you a threat to the campus security?
Well, because I'm a felon at this point.
Oh.
And so it's just based on, with the felony on my record,
Okay.
right? And so the advisor that I went to when I had that breakdown actually reached out to her, and we worked together to put together another readmission, and they let me back in finally. So there was that first barrier.
So she advocated for you.
Yes. Okay. The next barrier, right, was once I finally graduated, finding a job, right? That was difficult. I was always going to be upfront about it, and I had a number of people who wanted to hire me even despite that, but they just couldn't because, if you have a felony, it has to be 10 years removed or, those kind of things.
Right.
So that was difficult. And even when I finally found a job up here in D.C., the next challenge is finding housing, right? Because when you're looking to get an apartment, if you have a felony on your record and it's not within that 10-year window, 10 years removed, they're not going to rent to you.
Are you serious? I don't recall that ever being on the application for apartments.
Well,
think about it.
They do a background check. And again, this is when I was looking, even up here in D.C., yeah. Definitely in North Carolina.
Okay.
And so what ended up working out for me, I was fortunate in that there was a lady who owned the condo who I was able to tell my story to, who was willing to help me. Right? She let me rent from her.
God
But that
just
was
putting a bunch of blessings there. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So so that also was a challenge.
Okay.
After being released.
Okay. So now you go back to how you end up at the job.
Yeah. So after all that, right, I met this job I didn't like, so I decided to leave, and I wanted to find a new one. This one job looked perfect, right? And so I'm like, well, if I get it, I'll take it as a sign that I should live my authentic truth, whatever that means. I ended up not getting a job, and so I was like, okay, cool. I'm off the hook. I don't got to do nothing. But then like a month later, they called me back and offered me another position, which actually was much better. And so I'm like, okay, God, I see what you're doing here. I need to deal with this, address it, right?
One of the questions in the chat, it goes to you being offered that job is kind of the thing that gave you the push or the release or the freedom to do it. It's because they were asking, would you have ever done it on your own? But it seems like getting offered the job, you took that as a signal, and that's what put you there.
Yeah.
So now, with all these difficult obstacles that you had, okay, what do you feel has been the most difficult part about getting your life together, and where have you found them to lead you right now? Because you've taken that. I hate this. I always talk to people about how they should use their gifts. I don't want to call this a gift, but I don't know what it is. But it's your life experience. I'm gonna call your courage your gift, okay? Because it takes courage for you to be able to go out and share. Number one, that this is your lifestyle that you struggle with for so many years. It takes courage for you to go out and let somebody know that, I made the mistake as a drunk driver and I took somebody's life. It just takes courage for you to be here, to go around and now be going to you from North Carolina, but you're here in Prince George's County, going around and being a voice, talking in front of people that may not understand or accept that. Other people who have lost loved ones. They're like, you know what? They don't see your side. Yeah. Okay? Because again, nobody just decides, I want to take somebody's life. So I'm going to call your gift your courage. So through your courage, what have this pushed you out to start doing? Yeah. Because you call yourself something a little bit special there. I'm an entrepreneur, but you're a
social entrepreneur. And it's interesting you call it courage, right? I look at it not so much as being courageous or brave, but I feel like it's my obligation, right? Because it's like, if I had just dealt with some of this stuff before, someone would still be here. Someone would still have a father, a husband, I wouldn't have had to struggle so much, right? Because a lot of that stuff was self-imposed.
There's a lot of people that got that obligation and to this day haven't done it yet.
Okay. Well,
but you talking to them right now might be a reason for them to go ahead and do it. Okay. All right.
Well, and so that's why.
Don't be taken back when your girl Tasha trying to give you some gifts.
No, I receive it. No, But yeah, so all that said, right, I know that I should have done this stuff before, right? And I've always had the spirit of like a social activist, right? I initially wanted to be an educator. I started off in teacher education and mentorship. And so a big thing that affected me with all of that is I felt like I had let down the people, like students. And I had,
Because you was a principal or something?
well, my mother was,
Okay,
right?
because they said principal in your email. I was like, wait a minute, what did I miss? Okay.
Yeah. But so all that said, right? I couldn't teach in classrooms, right? Because as a felon, you can't do that. So I ended up looking into nonprofit management. Because nonprofits are another way you can do things like mentor and be in the community. And then I found out about social entrepreneurship, where it's essentially entrepreneurs, right? People who do business, but have a social cause behind it, right? So you can think of a lot of people know Tom Shoes.
Okay.
They are a company that they sell something, they sell a product, but it stems from a social mission, right? Ensuring that kids without shoes can get shoes. So
what's the difference between a social justice advocate and a social entrepreneur?
to be quite honest, there isn't a whole lot. Well, for one, so like a advocate don't necessarily take on business endeavors to accomplish the social goals, right? Whereas a social entrepreneur takes on business endeavors to accomplish a social goal, right?
Okay.
So that's the difference. It's like just the venue, right?
Y'all get an educator. Write that thing down. Go ahead.
So it's like if I'm going to do it through business, then that's more like the social entrepreneurship. And I decided that route was probably a good fit for me because I noticed and had learned that I had developed some pretty strong business skills. And then I also like look back at history, right? And if you think about like in civil rights during the bus boycotts and stuff, nobody really was trying to do anything until that happened because they saw how they were affecting commerce, right? And whether you like it or not, in our country, business can make things happen, right?
Right.
Some of the strong, most powerful voices in our nation's politics come from business, right? And so as I looked at my life, right, and I knew I couldn't necessarily be a traditional teacher, and I had these weird experiences that, I guess gave me courage. I decided, I can still make impact in communities and lives, but through business.
Okay, so something that you're doing with that deals with a documentary.
Yes.
And what's the premise behind this documentary?
Yes.
What's the name of it?
So I'm really excited about it. It's called I Am You, Dimensions of Diversity. And it's actually, so I'm working with an entrepreneur from Houston, Kalia Guillory. She's awesome. She has actually been named one of Houston Business Journal 40 under 40 and one of the keys to the city after doing the documentary. So it's really exciting. But essentially, it tackles a few issues. It tackles mental health. It tackles gender equality, privilege, white privilege, and a few other topics, right? Essentially, it follows these 5 characters around sharing their experiences. And you kind of go through this journey to kind of see at the end of the day, we all are the same, right? We all have the same desires, ultimately, love, acceptance, etc. So with the film, we're looking to show that, especially now where everything's so divided, right? Show that we can still, have our...
Why this thing divided? No, we're not going to go there. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, but, we can still, be in this group. I can be black. I can be a veteran. I can have a mental disability or what have you. But we all still are the same. We all kind of want the same thing. And if we work together, we can find a way for us all to get that.
Okay,
right?
We have a short clip previewing, reviewing the documentary. So we're going to break to that, and then we'll be right back with you guys. I Am You.
My name is Kalia Guillory, and I am you.
My name is Catherine, and I am you.
My name is Eddie, and I am you.
My name is Dwayne Williams, and I am you.
My name is Angela, and I am you.
This film presents a person that was different from me in a deeper sense, and I think those conversations need to be had, and if they can't be had, they can be heard.
So I think that being able to see all of these different stories, every single one of those individuals look different. Every single one of those individuals appear to be a different person for me or you or anyone else, but when they told their story, that's where we were all for one.
What I liked about all the topics is that all of them are somewhat taboo, and everyone is going through that stuff. And so when you shut that stuff down, people don't feel like they have a place, and everyone has a place.
The topic that resonated with me was the mental health. I was able to learn more about what it's like to live with schizophrenia. I had no idea that the struggle isn't only internal, they also have to deal with living situations that other people wouldn't have to deal with.
The one that stood out, I think, the most was the white privilege. I don't often hear from white people talking about the privilege that they have.
Imagine how much better the world would be if we could be that open and honest and trusting with each other and not be afraid to talk about our struggles.
When you're in the moment with prejudice and discrimination, you think you're the only person. And when I watched that documentary, it just made me feel I'm not the only one.
I think that one of the great values in this film was that our diversity goes deeper than the country of origin.
This film would be perfect for a corporation since it deals with the dimensions of diversity.
Sometimes we don't know what other people are going through that don't look like us, and how that effect could put us in a particular or precarious situation.
Okay, guys, so I see some comments. Jimmy Adams, you're saying that the volume is low on this video. I guess it's low for everybody else. I don't know what happened with it, but I'll tell you what. I will be sharing it and uploading it on the Your Girl Tasha Facebook page. Not my personal page, but Your Girl Tasha Facebook page. All of the videos that you've seen today will be posted on that page for you to look at if you weren't able to hear it. Now, before we get back to talking about I Am You and also the Socialpreneur, we got some comments in here. Rita Harris said, wow, that was an interesting clip. She enjoyed it. You guys are welcome to call in on 301-429-9247 with any comments that you have. But we had a young lady, Miss Michelle Ford, said that he is, capital letters, very courageous. This could have put him in an even deeper depression, but he used it to move forward and to inspire. Miss Rita said the volume was fine. Jimmy, check your ears. Jimmy Adams, check your ears. And Kathy says, so with this and your socialpreneur stuff, are what you're doing in essence blending gender equality with civil rights?
No, it's not. So
explain it a little bit more for her.
Yeah. So the thing is, at least for me, right? I'm just into social justice generally. So whether that is, civil rights, race and ethnicity, gender equality, mental health, whatever, there's not really a specific focus, right? Because I look at it like this, right? There are gaps in the things that people need and want from government. And there's gaps from what we need and want from business, right? To make us whole as a community, right? And so where there are opportunities, right, to be able to do that and uplift people, that's kind of where I come in, right? In terms of the documentary, it just touches on a lot of groups that have been stigmatized and have, had issues, right?
Okay, so another thing is you mentioned something that has never been heard of before. So how does it work with LGBT businesses for jobs? And do they hire heterosexuals? Because I think it's odd because you won't find heterosexual businesses without discrimination lawsuits attached to them. Mm-hmm. So explain, I guess they're trying to understand more about how do you get a job dealing with LGBT businesses?
Yeah. So it's a nonprofit organization that is a business development organization. It's actually an industry called supplier diversity, where there's each affinity group. So there's one for veterans. If you've ever heard of different programs for veteran business owners, or people with disabilities, or for women, or for racial and ethnic minorities, right? Anyone can work for any of these organizations. It's just where our focus goes in terms of the connecting to opportunities.
Okay. All right. So you got the documentary.
Yes.
And there's other things that you decided to do because somebody has referred to the outing as being bullying. So you actually had an audition for Shark Tank.
Yeah, well,
because of what?
Yeah, so one of the other things I'm kind of doing right now, and my thing is collaboration too, right? I know I don't know everything, and I don't have all the best ideas, but I just want to be a part of, great ideas and add value where I can. So I met a young entrepreneur, Kiara Douglas. She created this app called Report a Bully. And I think it's a great app, right? I've looked at it. I think it'd be a great tool for schools, right? Because her inspiration for the app was, seeing how so many students have committed suicide and their parents didn't know that they were being bullied in school, right?
Right.
And so for her, she felt wanted to build an app to where people, the students could anonymously report, and it would notify the school as well as the parents, just so that gap is closed, right? So that's an example of one of the other projects I'm working on, which has a social cause, but it's still entrepreneurial, right? So we did have the privilege, though, earlier this month to audition the app on Shark Tank. We drove up to New York City, and we stood in line from like 6 o'clock to 10, and met some really cool people, and we got to pitch the app. It was really fun. We learned a lot and met some really cool people.
Okay, well, Miss KD in Richmond appears to be on your girl Tasha's page. I don't know how she got. I didn't know we were friends, me and KD in Richmond. But she said, "Thank you so much for shouting out my Report a Bullying anti-bullying app." She loves you. She appreciates that
She's
so
awesome.
much.
She's
and
awesome.
Then you got Natasha from North Carolina saying she loves that, and you are a very intelligent young man. So we had a question coming from Latasha Renee Ward as well too. I guess this goes this way because sometimes, as Natasha points out, you're an intelligent young man. You're an intelligent black man. And sometimes black men don't have a story where they have second chances with you. So Latasha's question was, what advice can you give to someone that needs a second chance?
The best advice I could give you, honestly, is to just have faith, man, and don't quit. It sounds like easy and simple and stupid, but it's what I've done, right? I literally have been to the point where it's like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I've been suicidal, right? But at the end of the day, I always just, remember, don't quit. Because if you wake up tomorrow, you have another chance, right? And it's like waking up to a new day, right? To having that second chance, literally, but making the most of it. Because, for example, when I was released and when I was denied re-entry into college, I could have been like, oh, I was denied, and just left it there, right? But when I got my second chance to, actually try again, I took it.
All right, and somebody was there for you.
Every
closed door is not always closed. Sometimes that thing is cracked open. You just got to push it open. Hanging with your girl Tasha, who's calling, and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Kiara Douglas, and I'm calling from Capitol Heights, Maryland.
Hello, Kiara.
Hi everyone. Hi, Devin.
Hey, how are you? Good.
Hey, great. I just want to say I'm Kiara Douglas, and I'm the owner of the anti-bullying app, the Report a Bullying anti-bullying app that Devin was talking about. And I want to personally thank him for assisting me and helping me. He told me about the audition for Shark Tank, and we went up to New York and we had a great time. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to the next phase of it, but that's not stopping me. My app is a great idea, and it's going to do big and great and mighty things. But I just want to say that Devin is doing an awesome job with the LGBT community, and I just want to thank him so much for his professionalism and his great loving heart.
Well, we thank you so much for calling in, Kiara. Do you want to say something real quick? Look, and I gave him some information. I have a 9-year-old young man who has an anti-bullying campaign that he's on, and I really would like to connect you. He's here in the local area, too, and I think that the two of you could do great things together. I'm going to put you in touch with his mother, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And what you want to say to her?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for that, Kiara. You know, I love you so much, and you have a great product. So, of course, I want to be a part of it and help how I can.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Everybody have a great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Thank you for calling in. Okay, guys, notice if you need to contact Devin, it's on the screen. It's been on the screen. You're going to reach him at dsmith@ship, SHIP, and anchor, ANCHOR, biz.com. Devin, what would you say to your 18-year-old self? What kind of advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Yeah. So along with the advice I gave the Tasha who asked the question, just don't ever quit, right? Have faith, and don't be afraid to lean on the support systems in your life. Once I started doing that in a meaningful way is when things started changing, right? Once I started accepting the love that was there and support that was there is when I started feeling it, right? So yeah, just don't let the small stuff get you. If you keep breathing, keep waking up, you got it. That's all you gotta do.
All right, and we got Miss Michelle Ford says we rarely hear the story of the person that is behind such a tragedy. This is needed, and this was so awesome. She said, I'm glad that he is making the most of his second chance. Many people don't get them or either they take them for granted, and you're not taking them. That's another reason why you're courageous. You're not taking it for granted. You're not going underneath of, but look, it looked like his eyeballs about to start sweating. That's what my little baby said. His eyeballs about to start sweating. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. You can... You're doing the right thing right now. You're doing the right thing.
That means a lot. It does.
Okay. All right. So, what's the next project you have?
Yes. So we talked about the documentary. We talked about that. Oh yeah. So I also do business training, right? So we do some diversity and inclusion training. We do leadership development training. I have some great people in my network who does that. And I'm also actually working on another app with a friend of mine who I was incarcerated with. It's a cool app that would integrate with social media stories to make it a little more interactive. So yeah, those are the two on the burner right now.
All right, you got a whole lot going on there, and I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. They said that this was a great job going on the chat. Thank you, Jeanette Bryce. Terrence Coleman from Chicago. Thank you for sharing. My Aunt Dee, who's recovering from surgery in the hospital, she says, you are very courageous, young man, and I applaud you. I applaud you. All right. Okay, so that is... It wasn't that bad, huh?
It wasn't. It was great.
You got a little sweat on your nose, but you all right.
I did. Yeah.
So that's the end of another Hanging with Your Girl Tasha, guys. Next week I will be running a replay because we got the holiday. Y'all go out there, take something from this. Remember, drinking and driving, 1 minute, 1 second, 1 millisecond can change your life. Distracted driving, 1 millisecond can change your life. Bullying, 1 millisecond can change someone else's life. We have got to pay attention to these things, guys. All of these topics that Devin brought out that he's sharing in his life is so important. I hope that his story makes you think twice before you find yourself in any one of those situations. So that's the end of it. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
sexy lady who walks around without being shady, who knows her values, who's gone through trials. Her smiles are captured from mouth to mouth. It's not the size of her thighs she worries about, but the pride she thrives to keep that drive. That cinnamon twist. That cinnamon twist.